The movie begins by introducing us to a family consisting of a couple, Shimoto and Teiko, and their daughter, Mitsuko. Teiko is Shimoto's second wife and significantly younger than him, which causes tension with Mitsuko, who resents her stepmother. The family is depicted as deeply dysfunctional, with strained relationships and an air of depression hanging over them. Shimoto runs a small fish shop where he sells tropical fish to make a living. One evening after dinner, Mitsuko receives a call from her boyfriend, who tells her he's waiting outside the shop. Without hesitation, she leaves her meal and rushes to meet him, and her parents don't say a word to stop her. Later, Mitsuko calls her father, Shimoto, in a panic, explaining that she's caught in a troubling situation. Concerned, Shimoto and Teiko rush to her aid. It turns out Mitsuko had been caught stealing from a store, and the store manager is threatening to call the police. Teiko pleads with the manager, apologizing profusely for her stepdaughter's actions, but he refuses to listen. At that moment, a man named Yukio arrives at the scene. The store manager recognizes him immediately. Yukio, a wealthy and charismatic individual, intervenes and convinces the manager to let Mitsuko go without pressing charges. Relieved, Shimoto and his family thank Yukio profusely for his help. Yukio in turn becomes friendly and invites them to visit his fish shop. Intrigued, they agree and accompany him to his store, which turns out to be a massive high-end aquarium shop stocked with every kind of fish imaginable. Shimoto mentions that he also owns a fish shop, though it's much smaller and modest in comparison. Yukio laughs it off, saying the size of the shop doesn't matter, and introduces them to his wife, Aiko. Yukio expresses interest in seeing Shimoto's shop, so the family takes him and Aiko to their small store. Yukio and Aiko are impressed by its quaint charm. During the visit, Yukio observes that Mitsuko seems to lack purpose, which may have led to her stealing. He offers her a job at his shop, suggesting it could help her earn money and stay out of trouble. Shimoto is thrilled by the offer and thanks Yukio for his generosity. The next day, Yukio officially hires Mitsuko to work at his shop. He tells Shimoto that he can head home, assuring him that Aiko will drop Teiko off later in their car. Trusting Yukio, Shimoto leaves. However, things take a dark turn. Yukio takes Teiko to his office under the pretense of showing her rare fish. There, he gets uncomfortably close to her, touching her and making unsettling remarks. He tells her he knows she's depressed, that her stepdaughter doesn't love her, and that Shimoto fails to make her happy. Overwhelmed by his words, Teiko breaks down in tears. Yukio kisses her, then slaps her, which disturbingly she seems to enjoy. The two become intimate in the office. Afterward, Yukio drops Teiko off at home and casually invites Shimoto for a business meeting. Shimoto is puzzled but agrees, curious about Yukio's intentions. Yukio reveals that he wants to make Shimoto his business partner, which excites Shimoto. At Yukio's shop, Shimoto is introduced to Takuya, Yukio's lawyer. A wealthy client named Mr. Yoshida arrives, looking to buy the most expensive fish in the shop. Yukio presents Shimoto as his business partner, boasting about his small shop. Yukio shows Yoshida an exotic fish, claiming it costs 10 million yen. Yoshida, skeptical, points out that the most expensive fish typically cost around 1 million yen and accuses Yukio of trying to scam him. At that moment, Aiko serves drinks to the group. Yoshida drinks one and shortly afterward he collapses and dies. Yukio calmly pockets the 10 million yen Yoshida was carrying. Shimoto, horrified by what he's just witnessed, panics. Yukio hands him gloves and instructs him to help move Yoshida's body to avoid leaving fingerprints. Shimoto, trembling with fear, complies. Yukio, Aiko, and Shimoto load Yoshida's body into a car, and Yukio forces Shimoto to drive to a secluded house deep in the forest. Inside the house, Shimoto notices statues of the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ, along with numerous lit candles, creating an eerie atmosphere. Yukio and Aiko take Yoshida's body to the bathroom, where Aiko brings out a knife. They begin dismembering the body and Shimoto, sickened by the sight, starts vomiting and tries to flee. Yukio threatens him, forcing him to stay. Yukio chillingly reveals that he has killed 60 people, showing Shimoto Yoshida's liver as proof of his depravity. The next morning, Yukio burns Yoshida's bones in a furnace and has Shimoto collect the ashes. They drive to a remote location, where Yukio feeds Yoshida's flesh to piranhas in a river and scatters the bone ashes to eliminate evidence. Yukio warns Shimoto that if he tells anyone about the murder, he will kill Teiko and Mitsuko. That night, when Shimoto returns home, he breaks down and tells Teiko he loves her, which surprises her given his unusual behavior. The next day, Shimoto returns to Yukio's shop, where Yukio, Aiko, and Takuya intimidate him further. They receive a call from Yoshida's brother, who is searching for him and plans to visit the shop the following day. Shimoto, desperate to protect his daughter, begs Mitsuko to quit her job, but she insults him and refuses to listen. Yukio, Aiko, and Takuya coach Shimoto to lie convincingly to Yoshida's brother, rehearsing a false story to cover up the murder. Later, Takuya drives Shimoto home with Aiko in the car. Takuya reveals that he and Aiko are in love and want to kill Yukio, asking Shimoto to help them. Shimoto, skeptical, refuses. Angered, Takuya beats him, forcing him to agree. Overwhelmed and terrified, Shimoto takes Teiko to a planetarium to escape the chaos. The next day, Yoshida's brother arrives at Yukio's shop, demanding answers about his brother's whereabouts. Yukio sticks to the rehearsed story, and when Yoshida's brother grows suspicious, Yukio and Aiko break down in crocodile tears, claiming ignorance. Takuya interrupts, scolding them to end the meeting, and Yoshida's brother leaves, still uneasy but without proof. Yukio laughs, proud of fooling him, while Aiko goes to Takuya's house for an intimate encounter, watched by Takuya's driver. Meanwhile, two police officers approach Shimoto, asking about Yoshida's disappearance. They warn him that many people who worked with Yukio have vanished and urge him to tell the truth to avoid the same fate. Shimoto, too scared to confess, says nothing, and the officers leave him their card. Later, Yukio calls Shimoto, threatening to kill his family if he spoke to the police. Yukio summons Shimoto to Takuya's house for advice. When they arrive, they find that Aiko has murdered both Takuya and his driver, poisoning their drinks. Yukio and Aiko force Shimoto to help dispose of the bodies, taking them to the forest house, where they dismember and burn them, just as they did with Yoshida. Shimoto, now fully entangled in their crimes, is devastated. Yukio escalates his manipulation, taunting Shimoto about his inability to satisfy Teiko and forcing him to have sex with Aiko while Yukio watches. In a moment of rage, Shimoto grabs a pen and stabs Aiko in the neck, wounding her, then uses it to kill Yukio by stabbing him repeatedly. With Yukio dead, Shimoto feels a twisted sense of freedom. He tells Aiko that he is now Yukio, and declares her his wife, ordering her to obey him. Aiko, disturbingly, agrees and begins dismembering Yukio's body. Shimoto, now fully unhinged, dons Yukio's clothes and goes to the shop to retrieve Mitsuko. When she refuses to leave, he beats her and drags her home. At home, he forces Teiko to cook a family meal, but Mitsuko's boyfriend calls, saying he's outside the shop. Mitsuko runs to meet him, infuriating Shimoto. He storms outside, kills both Mitsuko and her boyfriend, and drags Mitsuko's body back home. When Teiko tries to intervene, Shimoto, in a rage, accuses her of sleeping with Yukio and rapes her in front of Mitsuko's body, revealing his complete descent into madness. Afterward, Shimoto visits Aiko, who is overjoyed to see him and begs him to love her. Instead, he kills her by striking her head with a statue. He then calls the police, giving them the address of the forest house. When the police arrive, they find Shimoto sitting outside, covered in blood. Inside, they discover the gruesome scene. As Teiko and Mitsuko, who somehow survived or were not actually killed in this version, arrive, Shimoto, in a final act of violence, stabs Teiko to death. He then turns to Mitsuko, telling her that life is pain and living is a wound. With that, he slits his own throat, dying as Mitsuko weeps over his body. The movie ends, leaving viewers with a chilling tale of how an ordinary man, Shimoto, was transformed into a murderer by the influence of a depraved criminal, Yukio. Initially a decent person with a quiet life, Shimoto's encounter with Yukio drags him into a world of crime, manipulation, and violence. When his breaking point is reached, he snaps, killing everyone around him and ultimately taking his own life to escape the pain of existence. This film is inspired by the real-life story of Saikichi Genzo and Hiroko Kazama, a notorious killer couple who once ran a pet shop. Known for their brutal crimes, they murdered people for money, dismembered their bodies, and disposed of them to avoid detection, much like the events depicted in the movie. Eventually they were caught by the police and sentenced to death. So that's the story of this dark and disturbing film. If you enjoyed this recap, please let us know in the comments and tell us whether you'd like to see more reviews of movies based on true events. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications.